She's to sick bay. The doctor should look at it as soon as possible.
It is the way in which we propagate our species. Please demonstrate how this is accomplished. So, what's next? I don't know.
Hi, and welcome to Casual Trek, a Star Trek recap and ranking podcast brought to you by Nerd and Tie and Secret Police. Have anything illicit to share? Please comment on our Spotify entry for the episode with any of the crimes you've done, and our favourite response will definitely get a special prize. I'm Charlie Etheridge Nunn, a writer and a fan of the TV show Alias.
And I'm Miles Reed-Lobato, a sci-fi writer and also a fan of the TV show The Prisoner.
Oh, that's a good choice. I admit, while I love The Prisoner, whenever I look at modern spy shows, I say modern, when I look at shows like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. for the first time, I'm mentally comparing it to Alias. And that's where I stopped watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was no Alias.
This is the weird dichotomy with me. Like, I either like my spy fiction to be that kind of John le Carré, very grounded, no sexiness. Like, all our spies are like overweight middle managers who have severe impotence and are more concerned about like filing the report for paper clips. Or to the other extreme of like the Avengers, not like the comic book, but the John Steed and Emma Peel fighting camp villains every week,
yeah.
and its camp gloriousness.
Definitely. I did feel that Alias was closer to that. You know, it was something where the actors knew that it was nonsense, but the characters took it completely seriously, no matter how mad, making Jennifer Garner wear a wig every episode and everyone accepts it's a completely different person.
I think that's why the 66 Batman show works so well, is that everyone watching it knows it's ridiculous. But to Batman and Robin and Commissioner Gordon and fucking Chief O'Hara and like all the villains, they are basically going through this grim Frank Miller war against crime.
Yes. Yeah. So here, our war against crime is that each episode we watch stories from 3 different Star Trek shows and we rank them on our big list of best to worst. And we'd tell you why we're doing this, but we would have to kill you. Oh yes, we're in spy mode today. We're on the road to Section 31, the motion picture. So we're going to have a look at a few Section 31 moments and some other potential things that may be relevant. Some required reading, almost, for it. So, before we do that, Miles, what non-Star Trek thing have you been enjoying since we last spoke?
I have been enjoying the brand new Wallace and Gromit film, Wallace and Gromit: Vengeance Most Foul.
Oh, I keep forgetting there was one of those.
It's feature length. And it's a lot of fun. It features the return of everyone's favorite rubber glove wearing penguin, Feathers McGraw, and gives us Norbot, a smart gnome, which, you know, it's designed in such a way that it feels like someone went, right, can we make an animatronic that looks more unsettling than anything from the Five Nights at Freddy's game?
Oh God. Wow, that's a horrifying premise.
But thankfully, at no point does the smart gnome try to shove any of our of the characters into itself.
Good. Yeah, that'd be a level that'd feel a bit too much in a Wallace and Gromit, to be honest. Cool.
But yeah, that's been me and Charlie. What about you? What non-Star Trek thing have you been enjoying?
Well, my partner bought me Astrobot for Christmas. And that was, as of time of recording, 12 days ago. And I have almost platinumed Astrobot. It has been a pure joy. I spent Christmas just with my brother, and the pair of us were switching off playing levels on it, just like we did in the old days with Super Mario World. And he's a dyed-in-the-wool PC gamer and all of this kind of stuff. And even his blackened heart was enchanted with Astrobot. As much as it often feels like a bit of a very brand kind of thing, it's got so much love for things that most people haven't heard of PlayStation-wise, and not even in a hipster way. And they're like, who would even think to put this character in here? They would. And yeah, just this cute little robot trying to rescue his friends and trying to get this PS5 spaceship rebuilt after a UFO, tore it apart, did some horrific things to the CPU, like shoved it right up inside him, and spends the rest of the game trying to taunt it, sometimes trying to woo it. It's very confusing, but you're saving this poor traumatized CPU that is also sentient.
This sounds like Pikmin on acid.
Oh, it's very good fun. It's got, actually, there's an amount of that Pikmin vibe, you know, not necessarily mechanically, but tonally. And it's the kind of thing you play and your heart just soars. And I say that having hit the point where it's only the kind of time trial stuff I've got left. And it is frustrating as hell, but I still love it. So yeah, if you've got a PS5 and you want some 3D platforming, if you want to play a kind of descendant of the Mario games, those kind of games, this is it. And I've started a challenge for this year of trying to play every Mario game, as I've realised I have all of them. And playing Mario Bros. 1, after playing Astrobots, you can feel that DNA.
Okay, is that every single main Mario game? And what about the ones where he kind of just tangentially appears? Like, are we including like Donkey Kong or Donkey Kong 2?
Nope. We are just doing the core Mario canon, not even the lost levels, because fuck that, I'm not a sadist.
Yeah, what about Super Mario Super Striker, the Mario Brothers football game?
No, I missed that game though. It was so much fun.
Okay, last one. What about the Mario Brothers, the port of the arcade game?
Maybe at some point, actually, with my brother. But you know, again, it's not part of the core textual canon and is specifically 2 players.
Charlie,
so,
have you ever stopped to consider the fact that you might be wrong inside?
Yes, I have some pills to help with that. Anyway, moving swiftly on, we're going to talk about morally grey, dubious, underhanded things. Ooh,
okay, shut up, Cyclops.
Yeah, it's time to talk about Section 31. A surprisingly late entry in DS9's running. I didn't realise it was season 6 out of 7 that they first appeared. And they've since been retconned in, and, you know, they've now existed since Enterprise, basically, as a kind of dubious, we're covert ops, we've got this utopian thing. You know, it's difficult to be a saint in paradise kind of thing, basically. And I've never had time for them, to be quite honest.
The trouble is, this is one of those things where, you know, it feels like a 15-year-old's idea of what kind of edgy moral compromise is. Like, despite the fact that, you know, our heroes in the Star Trek universe compromise their morals like every 3 weeks when they have to do something to get around the Prime Directive.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? So many of these rules are generally more guidelines, or at least you can reason your way around them and go, actually, for morality's sake, I did X. Yeah. And still keep flying, apparently, if you're Kirk or Picard or someone. So, how necessary is this? Apparently very. And I guess we'll find out imminently.
And I feel like one of my big kind of problems with Section 31 is that there's this idea that somehow the utopia doesn't work unless you have something very nasty behind the scenes, just kind of keeping everything running. Which, you know, okay, in terms of real politics, is true, but Star Trek is fundamentally a fantasy.
Yeah, it's a fiction, and it's a positive one. Like, the thing is, you know, it's the old Grant Morrison thing about be careful what you put in your brain, and just always having dour, morally dubious things can weigh on you. And, you know, when that starts to become the thing, how do you trust? How can you hope? And when Star Trek is there to kind of help inspire and give hope, going, actually, it's all shit. It just feels very trite, and as you say, very adolescent.
It's one of those kind of, big fan brain retcons, which feels... When it comes to this, I always think of the Star Wars New Jedi Order series of books, where it turns out that one of the reasons that the Emperor built the Galactic Empire wasn't a grab for power, but that he knew about the oncoming Yuuzhan Vong invasion, and that he was preparing the galaxy to be ready to fight the Yuuzhan Vong. So if those pesky rebels hadn't brought down the fascist dictatorship, the galaxy would have stood a better chance against the Yuuzhan Vong.
Oh god, I hate any of those. Oh, you thought defeating the fascists and the bad guys was good. Actually, it's bad.
Look, you have no idea how history kind of works, because, you can put every bad thing that happens is because of some stupid political mistake someone made 20 years ago. And that's not deep, that's realistic. And it's like with the situation in like India and Pakistan. You can tie so much of that back to how the mess England left of it when they partitioned the country, when they gave those two countries their independence. That doesn't mean we should turn around and go, well, actually, England should have kept control of India, because then we wouldn't have tensions between India and Pakistan every couple of years.
God. Anyway, so we've kind of set the table for where we're at with section 31. So now let's hear about them in the episodes. So, first of all, we have Star Trek Deep Space Nine Season 6, Episode 18, titled Inquisition. This aired on the 8th of April 1998, written by Bradley Thompson and David Weddell, directed by Michael Dorn. Yeah, Big W himself directed this. The UK number one hit was Run DMC versus Jason Nevins with It's Like That, and the US had Casey and JoJo with All My Life. Oh my god. Like, firstly, both of these are 100% like rocketing me back to the 90s and working at the comic shop. I'm sure I heard It's Like That so much back then. And yeah, All My Life I had no memory of until the music started playing. It's like, it's that one. It's probably the weakest of the tracks that I had to hear for this one, but it's fine.
Even more than Ariana Grande later on.
I mean, that made me think of the My Favourite Things instrumental that I think Andre 3000 did. I think it wasn't an Outcast joint, but yeah, because everyone's done one of those. Anyway, Miles, you have 5 minutes to tell us what Inquisition is about. Otherwise, you will be disappeared.
It's going to happen eventually.
Yeah.
Right? Who's going on holiday? Dr. Julian Bashier! Okay, he says he's going to a medical conference, but I've worked medical conferences. I know what's going to be going on there. And he's getting the last of his responsibilities sorted out when O'Brien comes in. He's dislocated his shoulder kayaking in the holosuite again. Bashier pops his arm back in, gives him something for the pain, and tells him it's going to be stiff and awkward for a few days, so don't do it again until I get back. Stick a pin in that dislocated shoulder, kids. Next morning, Bashier wakes up and not feeling at all rested and is just about to catch his shuttle when he's called up to Ops. Turns out that Sloane, a member of Starfleet Internal Affairs, is taking control of the station for the time being. Turns out there's a possibility of a Dominion agent somewhere amongst the command staff. Which brings to mind, in a post-scarcity society, can your place of work still be audited? Bashier asks how long it's going to take, and Sloane tells him, you're not going to that medical conference. In fact, you're all confined to quarters while I conduct my investigation. In his quarters, Bashir's replicator is offline, and he really wants some Scone and Jams. Scone and Jams. But he really wants some Scone and Jams.
I want Scone and Jams!
But he doesn't get the chance for his Scone and Jams before he is brought to Sloane for questioning. The questioning's brief. Sloane's pretty friendly and casual. He's got his jacket off. He's got his shirt sleeves rolled up like a kind of a groovy hip youth pastor. He does bring up that last time Bashier went to a medical conference, he was captured and imprisoned for 37 days and was replaced by a changeling by the Dominion. He also brings up Bashir's history as being genetically enhanced and the work he did with a group of other genetically enhanced people to kind of, think of ways through to Dominion War. He also mentions that the replicators are offline just in case anyone tries to replicate to communicate to call their Dominion handler. He takes Bashir's breakfast order and promises to get him his tea, his scone, and his jams. Bashir gets fresh Klingon garg instead. Hopefully Worf is enjoying the scone and jams. Oh, and someone's actually been covertly and very badly searching his quarters. O'Brien calls in on a private channel. Turns out they've all been questioned for hours, and all of Sloane's questions have been focused on Bashir. Sloane thinks Bashir is the mole. The second round of questioning is a lot less friendly, and Sloane really wants to get into the nitty-gritty of Bashir's time in a POW camp, especially that time when he was thrown into solitary confinement, and how conveniently that the Dominion left the runabout in orbit so everyone can make an escape. You see, Sloane thinks that Bashir's escape was actually a cover, and that he's been a Dominion spy this entire time. Turns out, there's this idea called engrammatic disassociation. Try saying that 5 times when you're plastered, where a complex enough mind could compartmentalize different personalities and facets of itself. Bashir could be a Dominion spy, and with his enhanced mind, he might not even know it himself. Bashir thinks the whole thing is ridiculous, and that Sloane better charge him so he can receive proper counsel. Sloane and his guards take Julian Bashier to a holding cell in chains through the promenade. They're very angry. You see, they've all lost friends in the war with the Dominion. Sloane's even lost a son. So Bashir's attitude has been kind of ticking them off. Sisko bursts into the holding cell, demanding that to Sloane that from now on, any questioning of Bashir that happens, he has to be in the room to make sure Bashir gets a fair shot. It does not go well. Sloane brings up the time Bashir tried to cure the Jem'Hadar of their addiction to the drug Ketracel White. Isn't it convenient that Bashir keeps ending up in important interactions with the geopolitical state of the Alpha Quadrant? Sadly, Bashir can't reply with the truth that he's a character in a TV show, and so is at the whim of the writers to be involved in weekly episodic stories in the 45 to 50-minute range where they had to be doing something pretty important. But the truly damning thing against Bashir is that he kept his status as being genetically enhanced from everyone on the station, even Captain Sisko. While Bashir admits that he was wrong to do so and should have come out with the truth sooner, he can't deny the fact that the truth only came out when it was going to be revealed anyway. When Sloane asks Bashir that if things were different, would he have kept the truth a secret? And Bashir is forced to admit he doesn't even know for sure. Now even Sisko is doubting Bashir. Sloane gives Bashir a choice: sign a full confession or spend the rest of the war in a maximum security prison. Bashir tells them that he'll sign nothing, and just as they're about to escort him out, Bashir is beamed away onto a Dominion ship with Weyoun waiting for him.
Oh dear. Right, okay, we're going to have you bundled off in a van, never seen again, and your replacement will have to continue for
Look, this isn't the first time I've been threatened with Room 101 in the last month.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I guess we really are in 2025.
Oh, no.
Okay.
I guessed it on on the Christmas episode of Breakfast in the Ruins, where they did a Room 101 theme. That's the British panel show of the 90s, and not having a rat cage strapped to my face. Although, once at a convention, me and a couple of mates were in the hotel bar drinking and coming up with ideas for a 1984 themed bar and grill.
Ooh,
the food would be served in rat cages and strapped to your face.
Wonderful. Okay, so on that cheery note, I hope your rat cage is comfortable, and continue.
Bashir is beamed back onto a Dominion ship with Weyoun waiting for him. A wild Jeffrey Combs appeared, and it's super effective. Wait a minute. Is Bashir the spy? Weyoun tells Bashir that he is, in fact, the spy, and he can never remember it due to the whole engrammatic disassociation thing. It makes the whole thing really annoying. But don't worry, we brought you your Scone and Jams. Bashir picks up that both Sloane and Weyoun essentially want Bashir to admit that he's the spy. Wait a second. Is Sloane actually the spy, and both he and Weyoun are trying to make Bashir the fall guy? Worf and Dax teleport in and they start blasting. and they rescue Bashier and get him back on the Defiant. Everyone now is convinced that Bashier is a traitor. Everyone's giving him the cold shoulder, especially O'Brien, who shrugs off Bashir's attempt at a friendly pat on the shoulder with the arm he dislocated kayaking. Bashier does the old, I'll ask him a question and catch him out in an obvious lie trick. And it works. None of this is real. It's all been simulated via a holodeck. Sloan is waiting for Bashier and he's wearing some nifty black leather. Bashier has been in the holodeck this entire time ever since he woke up that first morning. That's why he's been disorientated this entire time. Turns out, Sloan actually works for a secret section of the Federation called Section 31. They deal with problems both inside and out that the Federation can't handle. In fact, they have no oversight and they act as free agents. Even worse, it turns out that Sloan wasn't trying to hunt down a mole. This was a job interview. Bashier has all the natural talents needed to be a spy. Even that whole secret agent holoprograms malarkey we've talked about in the previous episode. Bashier doesn't think that the ends justify the means for Section 31 to exist, but Sloan asks Bashier that since he was only able to become a doctor by lying about the truth of his genetic enhancement, hasn't all the lives he's saved, because of his deception, mean that the ends do in fact justify the means? Bashier tells Sloan to shove it, but Sloan thinks he'll come around and promptly knocks Bashier out, and Bashier wakes up back on DS9. Cisco can't find any evidence of Sloan of Section 31. It's all been covered up. When both Cisco and Bashier are appalled at the idea that the Federation has something like this, Odo comments that all the great powers throughout history have had organizations like this. The Vulcan, the Romulans, the Cardassians, why shouldn't the Federation? Cisco tells Bashier that from what he told them, Sloan doesn't seem the type to just leave Bashier alone, and that Bashier will get his chance to play spy after all. If Sloan ever comes forward with a job offer for Section 31 again, Bashier has to take it so they can get to the bottom of this clandestine organization, which means that we now have yet another long-running plotline of Deep Space Nine.
Wow, they love them, don't they? So, Miles, have you been through any weird job interviews along these lines?
Not particularly.
Okay. I've mostly been bad at job interviews more than I have had weird job interviews. There was a time where a friend and I had been out drinking, and the night before the interview, he'd written "pow" and an exclamation mark on my knuckles in permanent marker. So we were talking tattoos, and I don't have any. But I was like, if I had them, that kind of thing would be fun. And I had to hide that by kind of nesting my hands. You had to be doing the Burt Ward
kind of punching fist that he does in your Batman show.
Yeah. Hand under the table or hand, kind of cupped in the other one. And I thought I'd got away with it. And I left really happy about the job I'd done in the interview. And I went to text my team leader in the job that I was in saying, "Oh, I'm just about to hop on a train to get to you," and realised my flies had been undone for the entire interview as well. So that went well.
I think the most. Oh God. I was running late for my interview for Starbucks, and I had my jeans on, and I had like some smart black trousers in my bag, and the bus stopped, and the driver got out to use the bathroom at a petrol station, and I thought, right, I'm the only one on this bus. I'm gonna quickly change on the bus. And as I'm getting my trousers on, that's when the bus driver got on the bus.
Great. Okay, good. Was he pleased about this? Good. That's probably for the best, to be honest. So, this is another one of those episodes, like the Undercover O'Brien one, where it sounds like the original pitch was quite different. So apparently this was originally going to be a comedy episode about Bashier parking a runabout in the wrong place on a planet and having to go through a bunch of DMV-style shenanigans. I have no idea how... how this would have been that. But, it's an interesting idea with this, but I'm pretty sure we had some of these sorts of ideas like, oh, who's really dodgy? Who's actually a changeling or anything like that previously, compared to here where it's like, oh no, the dodgy organization is actually the Federation, which I I get some of the thoughts of it, and just this on its own isn't terribly edgy. Like it feels a bit weird going, yes, this is someone from internal affairs. By the way, they're actually a secret spy, which is kind of our internal affairs as well. That felt like a bit of almost unnecessary duplication, because if they've got internal affairs, wouldn't they do an amount of these kind
especially since we saw in the O'Brien episode, like for our Christmas episode, they have morally dubious spycraft in Starfleet to begin with.
Well, yeah, you got Starfleet intelligence. Again, is this redundancy in teams? Is this going, yeah, Starfleet intelligence basically does all the spycraft that Section 31 does. It's just Section 31 was like some Admiral's goth son decided to set it up and go, yeah, we also do spycraft, but our guy's dressing cool black leather.
Maybe it's just,
that kind of thing.
Like you said, there are parts of how Section 31 is presented here that I kind of like. Like, they're just an offshoot which has no oversight. So it just feels like it could be this collection of, I know we spoke about in the episode with Garth of Izar, what happens to the misfits in the Federation. You could see that, like, you have this core group of misfits is recruited from this organization who are an offshoot of Starfleet and the Federation, who are tasked with doing a thing. And they feel like they operate like outside the law.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You were talking about liking the John le Carre kind of, it's all a bit morally dubious, but in a very dry way, where they're all kind of wearing very stuffy looking suits. And, they might have a chat on top of a building somewhere. And that's about as exciting an action scene as you get. Like, William Sadler feels like he could do that perfectly. He provides a very good performance.
I didn't realize he's the Grim Reaper from Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
Yes. Yeah, he is. His death. He is Jay's dad in Wonderfalls, which is, again, a very good performance for a very dead TV show. Yeah, he's someone that's been in a lot. Like, he's an actor who gets
He definitely has fantastic character actor vibes. But it was just hard to not look at him and just remember the scene where they're doing a take on the Seventh Seal. And it's games like Cluedo and the electronic like hockey game.
Yeah. So if that person was running like a secretive organization, so yeah, like at this point early on, it feels like it could have been that sort of the standard. You got your swashbuckling idiots, your spreadsheet nerds. These are the spreadsheet nerds, but underhanded somewhat, or at least with less oversight. And as we'll find in the Discovery episode we're about to cover, technology that is a bit beyond what the rest of Starfleet has, which feels odd. Going like, we've made advancements, but we're not going to put them out to everyone. We're just going to put our dodgiest people in charge of them.
This feels like the same problem that happened when they introduced Torchwood into Doctor Who, where it's like it's a secret organization which defends England from weird dodgy alien technology, but they're also pocketing the technology itself. I'm like, hang on, this is basically UNIT from the 70s, but much more kind of Y2K, kind of corporate, and in the Torchwood spin-off show, a lot more openly fucky.
Yeah. Yes, I still remember a Charlie Brooker article about Torchwood, which was very good fun. Of that, not knowing quite whether it wants to be steamy bodice ripper or a children's show with prosthetic.
The problem with Torchwood is that it's a show that gets better. Season 1 is trying so hard to be grimdark that it becomes camp as fuck. And then season 2, they kind of get the tone, and it becomes very much a kind of late season Angel kind of vibe. Then you get Children of Earth, which is some of the best UK SF TV ever made. But you will have to make me to watch it at gunpoint, because it is just so depressingly bleak that I can't do that to myself. And then you got Miracle Day, which had a really good premise but fell apart and utterly wasted the opportunity to have John Delancey match wits with John Barrowman.
I mean, it was a Stars show, and I mean that in the positive and mostly negative ways. It was very much a Stars show. But yeah, with this, it's like Bashier gave a great performance, I felt. His paranoia and like that sense of, oh god, I didn't realize this was going to be pretty much a bottle episode. But yeah, it was. It's a lot of which is just in his quarters, which is interesting to use as a limitation. I mean, for some shows like Red Dwarf, that was basically the show because of budget things. But here, going, yep, there we go, one thing. And like the way he and Sadler play off each other is quite nice. Apparently, Michael Dorn was very proud of their performance, and I can only imagine that being said in a Worf tone of voice. And I know that Michael Dorn doesn't just sound like that normally, but yeah.
Have you tried doing it faster and more intense?
God, I'd love that if he was directing in character
I'm just imagining
the whole
him
time.
like in the Worf voice, but talking like Garth Marenghi in like the two camera sections of Garth Marenghi's Dark Place. I know writers who use subtext, and they're all cowards.
I want someone to Photoshop Worf in that image.
This is kind of why I made my Prisoner comparison, because this is essentially what the Prisoner is going to do for like 16 of its 17 episodes, which is basically, why did you resign? Fuck you. Show. And
yeah, there we go. That's it. That's for sure.
Part of me wishes there had been more weirdness. Or more kind of playing around with the nature of Bashir's incarceration, of Bashir's kind of torture by the system. There was an episode every so often, Babylon 5 does an episode where a main character is interrogated for crimes he may or may not have committed. And they usually tend to go into a much more surreal or playing with nature of reality. There's an episode in the first season where Sinclair is virtually interrogated on the premise that he might be a spy for the Minbari because of plot reasons, and it's all very surreal that he's in a VR representation of Babylon 5, and then it plays with the nature of what is reality, what is not.
Oh god, if they went a bit more like the organization from The Prisoner, if they went a little more kind of control or just weirder with Section 31 of they've got technology which may not necessarily be advanced, but they're going to do weird shit with it.
An episode in season 4 of Babylon 5, which I think is called Intersections in Real Time, where Sheridan has been captured and is being interrogated, and each act of the show is one scene. So the episode base essentially works in real time. And there are moments where he's in a black room, he's being interrogated, the door opens, the interrogator comes in, there's bright light outside, and he says good morning. And then as that particular scene carries on, it turns out that Sheridan has no concept of time, but the interrogator just said it was morning, and there was only bright light outside because they can control the light outside. So Sheridan doesn't know what time it is. All he has is what he's being given, and they control the world around him. I think that would have been more interesting to just kind of, it's like, do they want to break Bashir? Do they want to make him, are they going to make him confess if he is suffering under this engrammatic disassociation? Do they want to try and mentally break him down?
Well, in a way, going we kind of know that he won't have been replaced because this has been a long enough amount of time that going, oh yeah, that person you knew was some kind of clone or was a spy all along. It rarely works. See Ben Reilly and Teen Tony from Avengers: The Crossing, so we know that he's innocent, adding to the frustration of this on his part, which is good fun.
Also, this is the second time that Bashir would have been replaced by a changeling, because there's a period of time when we find out, I remember it's an episode where they find out that Bashir was captured and replaced with a Dominion agent. And we can tell the difference because the Bashir they find is wearing the old classic DS9 uniform. And then they switched to the First Contact movie era uniforms 5 episodes ago. So the Bashir we've had for 5 episodes was probably the changeling all along. So they're not going to do that again.
Yeah. It'd be weird if it happened twice, although if you were embedding a spy,
that would be a good way of doing it, yeah.
Real good gambit, yeah. Yeah, speaking of which, they're wearing the First Contact outfits. what do you feel about that kind of grey, lilac-y kind of like bit at the top?
I don't know. I find the next generation movie uniforms, they're not as they're not as good as, say, the TOS movie era uniforms with that lovely maroon kind of very naval. And I think this is one of those things where they changed it because the costumes they had probably didn't look as good on the big screen. And so they wanted to have something a bit more grounded.
Like the cut of the uniform looks good, but I don't know. I just don't have time for that. The slightly padded like top bit and limiting the different colors to just what's underneath there. You know, I give me a bit more color.
I don't know. It doesn't work as well as like I said, the maroon, and like it's fine. You know, I don't know. The TNG kind of DS9 Voyager era uniforms aren't my favorite because they do at times feel more like they're wearing pajamas than they're wearing an actual military uniform. Like, okay, even though they're wearing like the color coded tunics in Strange New Worlds and TOS, they do kind of feel like they're wearing a basic kind of naval ship uniform. Yeah,
there's
it's a nice combination of, say, like the kind of campy kind of Flash Gordon style kind of space underoos, but with a kind of military style.
Yeah. Anyway, so we're talking about uniforms now, so it's probably a good time to put this on our big list, and that list of best to worst Star Trek TV episodes
One
films.
last thing.
Oh,
Odo was a bit of a bitch.
Go on.
And I think Odo's had a bad bucket day. But like I like he just comes on at the beginning and goes, "Oh, you're going on holiday. You gotta go try and get laid at your medical convention," and then walks out. And then he comes back and goes, "Well, actually, all great powers indulge in the great game. So why would Starfleet be any better?" Like, Thanks, Odo. Thanks. Okay,
right, yes,
okay, Odo. Did someone just move your bucket slightly to the left and put you out?
Oh, God, did someone put a mop in it?
No.
Like,
I think I remember an episode
insult.
where it turns out Dax just goes into Odo's room when he's not there or when he's asleep and just moves his shit around just to troll Odo.
Brilliant.
So
I love that.
Perhaps Dax replaced his bucket with a Henry Hoover.
Yeah. Again, that'd be amazing. Anyway, so yes, we have our big list of best to worst, currently standing at 144 entries, all the way from the number one spot, which is Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. The movies are still fairly heavily in the top spots here, which we'll get to Star Trek 4 soon and see how that goes. We've got in spot number 50, we have the animated series.
You might be a king or a little road sleeper, but sooner or later you dance with the Reaper.
Oh, good old.
You sunk my battleship.
It's like when I realised the dad from Wonder Falls was him. It's like, oh my God, what?
Okay, back in the room.
Anyway, back in the room. So, list from best to worst. In the number one spot, we have Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. And our list is pretty film heavy in the top 10. So, it'll be interesting to see what happens when we cover Star Trek 4.
Don't forget, we're pretty covering Star Trek The Final Frontier this year. And Number one, new number one.
Obviously, you know, it's by Shatner. So, yeah. Anyway, not by Shatner is in the 50th place, which is the Infinite Vulcan featuring Giant Spock. I love that Giant Spock's been having a bit of a resurgence since Lower Decks had his skeleton. In spot number 100, we have Voyager's Virtuoso, where the Doctor is pro and then very anti AI art. And then we have in the last place, in spot 144, we have the original series' Plato's Stepchildren, which, some Amdram nonsense, some non-consensual Amdram
this episode
nonsense.
Needed some Amdram.
Mm?
Imagine if Sloane was just like, okay, Bashir, we're going to roleplay. You're going to be the spy for the Dominion, and I'm going to be your Dominion handler. What would you do in this situation?
Oh, I thought you meant like Bashir doing a one-act play in his quarters, or like just go right, Sid, improv. Like, what is Bashir going to do to kill time? We'll just
Bashir
keep the
just does a
cameras
one-act
running.
Play of Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment.
Oh, nice. Yeah, his own protest.
He writes a 60s style protest song. He replicates it himself in acoustic guitar and just starts singing like 1960s Vietnam era protest songs. Then to protest, he goes electric.
Would he? I mean, he feels like the kind of person that'd have an acoustic guitar
I feel Bashir
already.
is that dweeb who has a pair of bongos. You know that Starfleet Medical, he had a pair of bongos and he made those his personality for like a couple of months.
Oh no, a terrible couple of months. Wore hats. People there.
He was definitely he had a hat phase.
Definitely.
Yeah,
he was a hat guy.
He was like that guy. I'm sure you've seen him in Brighton, who goes around dressed in like as a 19th century Victorian gentleman, complete with a top hat, and like every time I've seen him, I just hate him on class-based instinct. I want to throw a stone at his hat. And I'm like, he's been in the news, and I've had friends from America send me this article. I'm like, hey, isn't he from your hometown? I'm like, yeah, he seems to be the nicest guy in all these interviews. Just in a town filled with hipsters, he is the most hipstery of them.
Yeah. When you start going back like centuries in your fashion, then that's a weird sign. So where I'm having a skim through this, where do we have as a floor or a ceiling?
Ooh, man, there are some I did enjoy it.
So I quite liked it.
Okay, let's have a look. Okay, I see you're kind of circled on Pegasus, which is number 29, where which has our old friend John Locke. Number 29, and Iron Needle. That's me. Oh, right.
I know that's you that's on there, but yeah. Yeah. I see you're on Pegasus, which features our old friend John Locke.
Okay. Let's see. We've got number 21. We've got the Drumhead, which is all about McCarthyism. Yeah,
that was really good.
When we had our quick list of famous people from Wisconsin, we forgot Chris Farley, I think, and he's actually he's buried in a cemetery not too far away from me. True story.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I'm assuming much better that, I've not looked into Chris Farley's life. I'm assuming better than Ed Gein and McCarthy.
Out of the two,
probably
yes,
combined.
But the sadder death. Because if
yes.
I think McCarthy was definitely one of those people who died in bed. Bastard. All right. Okay. I see.
How dare he.
Okay, man, you're scrolling down.
Let's see. I know, I keep looking at these going... In 36, we've got I Have No Bones, Yet I Must Flee with Moopsy, and this is not as good as Moopsy. Well, I mean, according to list 35 episodes are better than Moopsy.
Is better than Moopsy.
Yeah, just.
Oh, man. Oh, God.
Is it better than Tuvix?
I feel there are less moral arguments to be had about this episode than Tuvix, even though the entire premise of this episode is so Starfleet has a CIA.
Yeah.
At no point in this episode does any of our cast do war crimes. That's the episode after this episode, because I let this episode run on, and then it was The Pale Moonlight, where Sisko allows many war crimes.
Yeah, we might have to have a war crimes episode just to do that one.
So, okay, number 41. Sub Rosa, the sex scandal episode.
Oh, I mean, if I'm watching either of them, both are good contenders. I think I might go sex scandal. The camp of it, camp wins a lot for me with these.
How about this? If you were watching Star Trek and your partner walked into the room, which would you be less embarrassed to be caught watching? Bashir being caught up in the draconian wheels of espionage, or Crusher getting her rocks off from a Scottish space ghost, coast to coast.
So we had many discussions about the consent of fucking a ghost, / weird space entity that's saying that it's a ghost Scotsman. So there were longer conversations about Sub Rosa than there were about this one. I think there'd still be conversations about how Bashir is kind of useless, and that they'd probably be doing better if they got someone else hired to Section 31. So I don't know. I think the conversations might be more fun with Sub Rosa.
I
How about
have
yourself?
no shame. And also, is this like, given my wife's, taste and viewing habits, she has no moral high ground on coming home to find me watching the Sex Ghost Candle episode. And given that she's editing this one, hi honey, I love you.
Oh dear. Yes. So, is this going to put it at 42?
I think so.
Okay, good. Just below Sub Rosa. That's what your moral greyness gets you. You're good, but not as good as the Sex Ghost. Yes. Yeah. Next up, we have Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 3, Episode 15, titled Yesterday's Enterprise. This aired on the 19th of February, 1990. It's got a lot of people credited here. Teleplay by Ira Stephen Bear, Richard Manning, Hans Beimler, and Ron Moore. Story by Trent Christopher Ganino and Eric Stilwell, and directed by David Carson. The UK #1 hit was Sinead O'Connor with Nothing Compares to You, and the US with Paula Abdul's Opposites Attract. That was quite a tonal whiplash watching those two in close succession.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Opposites Attract was fine, and the video is always good fun, given the kind of Roger Rabbit, Cool World style kind of live action animation crossover. But Sinead O'Connor, like, so good.
Yeah.
Like, hands down, out of the 5 tracks we listened to for this, easily the best.
Artists that we're never going to get to talk about on this show, which makes me sad. Kate Bush, the Mountain Goats, Tom Waits, and Patti Smith.
Wait until we cover tracks that we've done to death on this, because then it's dealer's choice.
Oh yeah.
So I'm sure we'll get to some of these. So I mentioned that Season 6 of DS9 was the first appearance of Section 31. So why are we doing Yesterday's Enterprise? Well, it features a core character from the upcoming Section 31, the Star Trek movie. And that is Captain Rachel Garrett, who's going to be played by that dodgy one out of The Magicians, who was also in Hannibal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who did she play in Hannibal?
Oh no, I'm going to have to vamp for time while I quickly run to IMDb, because I'm completely blanking on her name.
Vampity vamp, vampity vamp, dun dun dun. Vampity vamp, vampity vamp, dun dun dun. Vampity vamp, vampity vamp, dun dun. Vampity vamp, vampity vamp.
Okay, so the actress is Casey Roll, who was... Oh no, I'm not ready time-wise. Hang on. Yeah, okay, she was on Wayward Pines. Not a good TV show, but a TV show I very much enjoyed. She was Abigail Hobbs in Hannibal.
Oh, so she was the... okay. It's been a while
The
since...
daughter from the very first one.
Oh, she was the kid who Hannibal and Will Graham kind of had their weird psychosexual
adoption
okay.
thing of yeah,
because she'd had to be young to be in Section 31, given that, like, given the timeline.
I'm still not 100% sure when Section 31's expected to take place.
We're Discovery was a few years before the Kirk era, and the Enterprise C, I can't remember how, but then it has to have been far enough in the past of TNG for sailor to have been born?
So, from what I gather, like Michelle Yeoh, Giorgio was thrust into the past somewhere.
Okay.
We didn't see where she landed. She's not appeared in Strange New Worlds. So, somewhere?
All
I'm
right.
guessing before 22 years before TNG, because of things that we will find out about imminently. Yeah, it's weird. It's a weird choice. Yeah.
All right. Okay, Charlie.
Yes.
You have 5 minutes to recap the story, or else you are going to have to step through the time hole.
Oh God! Loop up the time hole.
Yep.
We're going in again.
Lines of Red Dwarf, which I thought about while watching this episode. All hands on deck, swirly thing alert.
Yes, there is very much a swirly thing here.
All right. Okay. Do you have your prune juice ready?
Yeah. God, how does he drink this stuff? Right.
Massive Klingon shits.
Right. Go. So, Worf's in 10 forward, and after Guinan shows him prune juice, he decides to make it his whole deal. She reckons he should really find a woman, and he says human women are too fragile, which we all know is bluster on his part. I can't imagine he's ever touched a human woman. He's called away as there's a wibbly thing in space, and Guinan looks at it through the window, kind of concerned. Data says it's a time hole, and Worf finds something on sensors. It's a ship going through it, and then everything goes wibbly. The Enterprise looks different. They've switched on dark mode, and everyone's got prismatic holders for their phasers. Picard asks Tasha Yar if there's anything on sensors. What? But she's dead. No. Something's different. Guinan's here. She's unchanged, and she's about as confused as we are. Tasha Yar says the ship that came through the time hole is the Enterprise C? Oh my God, that's the one we don't know anything about. So, we get Picard's military log explaining the Enterprise C went missing years ago and now it's here. There's a call from Captain Rachel Garrett, who says she was attacked by Romulans and the situation's real bad there. Picard reassures them that they're going to help, but also says to his guys, don't mention the whole time hole thing. An away team is sent over and yep, shit is fucked. Most of the people there are dead, but Rachel Garrett's there and just about alive. She's beamed off by Crusher, and Tasha finds a Lieutenant Castillo under some wreckage. Guinan appears to JL and tells him they need to talk, because this timeline has got some real bad vibes in it. Also, there are no families on the ship. What's up with that? Picard's shocked by that, going, but this is a warship. But no, it's supposed to be a peace ship. Well, science ship, but you know, peace, kind of. Over in sickbay, JL tells Garrett that the ship's okay. She's confused by his uniform and by the general look of sickbay. And he admits pretty much immediately that, fine, you're 22 years in the future. She's really worried that if they put her back in the time hole, the ship's going to get destroyed because they were responding to a Klingon outpost's distress call, and then Romulans attacked. Oh, it's all gone bad. Tasha and Castillo chat, and he's freaking out about the whole time travel thing, and her mind's very much on the job, but kind of a bit flirtily with him. So yeah, apparently half of Starfleet was lost to Klingons in the current war, which doesn't sound good. JL doesn't want to send the Enterprise back to their deaths, and asks Guinan, you know, is this timeline really so bad? Yes, JL, it is definitely bad. And fuck you around with the timeline is bad. And Guinan doesn't normally speak up about these things, so when she speaks, you listen. That said, Guinan doesn't speak so much when she sees Tasha Yar in 10 forward and tries to keep her cool, because she's just seen what is, in her universe, a dead person. Picard now has been talked into sending them back, and the crew protest. But they're not in the big boy chair, are they? No, take that, Riker. Data mentions that maybe if the Enterprise C dies honourably, the Klingons will love it. They love honour, they love death, that whole thing. The Enterprise C gets fixed and kitted out a bit, and Garrett's concerned, but she knows they have to go back. Some of her crew have to go back because, damn it, Starfleet people are so bloody noble. Picard admits that it's probably for the best. To be honest, we'll level with you. The Federation's doing really badly. Like, really, really fucked at the moment. Any semblance of calm and competence is a complete front. They're like 6 months from going completely belly up here and falling to the Klingons. So, probably good to go. Tasha and Castillo are still flirting and chatting a lot. And oh no, there are Klingons! And guess what? They're off the starboard bow! Yeah, it's finally happened. Some rocks fall from the ceiling and kill Garrett. So Castillo's in charge now. The ship shouldn't be without a captain after all. And the time hole's failing. It's all going wrong all at once. Tasha and Castillo say goodbye like 3 or 4 times, and she feels really bad about leaving them. She asks Guinan, like, what was up with that look? You know, what happened to me in the other universe? Rick Berman. I'm sorry, it's Rick Berman. You got a real shit death. So she volunteers to transfer over to the Enterprise C because they need someone on the tactical side.
Oh. Do you know what? Like, this is already a good episode, but do you know what have improved this? At the moment Guinan had saw Tasha, she just pointed and screamed. And
Sadly, Guinan's more chill than that, but yeah, that would be
I
fun.
don't mean like... I mean like this, you know the bit in Community where they have to hold Abed down while the guy puts the clocks back? And,
yeah.
And then Abed just kind of screams like a universe-shattering, like, cosmic horror. That's a scream Guinan needed to have made. Like Michael Sheen's scream in the last Twilight film where he's like,
wow. There's a memory I didn't need dredging up.
Alright, okay. I am preparing the stopwatch.
Okay, good. So yes. So Tasha transfers over to the Enterprise C. They're gonna die anyway, so it's not really that big a problem for timeline, you know? The Klingons are on the way. The Enterprise D takes a horrendous battering while the Enterprise C flees into the time hole. We see some like future scenes from Days of Future Past, kind of everyone's fucking dying in the Enterprise D. But suddenly, time hole closes. The Enterprise D is back to normal. Light mode. They thought they saw a ship pop through the time hole for a moment, but that's not happened. It's gone. Guinan calls up to say, is everything all right? And yeah. No one sees that as suspicious, even though Guinan only calls the bridge if something weird's going on. Instead, she hangs up, sits back down in 10 forward, and asks Geordie to tell her all about Tasha Yar.
58 seconds.
Hey. Yeah, so what part of this universe, like, was something of this alternate universe stood out to you as different and interesting?
I like the fact they had extra consoles on the bridge.
And
the fact that you know how we complain about how dark the bridges of the starships look in Discovery and Picard. This is it. This is the mode they're on.
They did it! Yeah! This is exactly what would happen if TNG was lit the way the modern shows were lit. For me, it was the holsters. Like, everyone's got, like, a shiny silver belt with a phaser on it. And some of them have, like, a kind of shoulder holster thing. Again, it looks like prismatic tape that we had too many offcuts of as kids and stuck on everything.
The fact that Picard's a bit of a jerk, and he and Riker just don't get along.
Yeah, that lack of respect for the crew was impressive to see. Of like, yeah, I get it, but I'm the boss. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, the detail that 10 forward wasn't a bar. It was just like a barren room at rations. Yeah, it was a mess hall where like rations handed out. And all that. Like, I love how much it just played it straight that this timeline, we know that it's different, but for them it is completely normal. Like it's that idea of something happens. Well, it's Age of Apocalypse, that kind of thing, which has an anniversary this year, I
Oh god,
believe.
oh my god, we're old.
Yeah,
You,
yeah.
you know
It's
how
like 30 years old now.
you know how people, when talking about like the Kelvin movies, they kind of complain that like, despite this huge, massive change to the timeline, all the core crew end up on the same ship at the same time, conveniently. It's the same thing with like yesterday's Enterprise.
Yeah,
It's like they built. It's like, yeah, we built this ship for families, but we, the same ship got built just with some cosmetic differences, and like the main core crew, with the exception of Troy and Worf, are here.
yeah. Well, how many of them have families, really? Like Crusher, Wesley Crusher's in an actual Starfleet uniform, which he wouldn't be for a little bit in the show. But yeah, like this isn't much of a family ship. I guess they're conscripting children younger, especially if they're missing half of Starfleet
Yeah,
at this point.
it's one of those things that's like, yeah, you just kind of have to hand wave it.
Yeah. And that's fine,
Yeah.
you know. Any of these alternate reality things, going like, yeah, the crew's 100% different. In fact, the ship's 100% different. It's like, where's the interest? Where's the fun in that?
Yeah.
You know, seeing these alternate takes is interesting. And going, yeah, like, again, it's treated exactly as a regular procedural episode of Star Trek, where beaming onto the fucked up, ruined Enterprise C with the away team, they do what the away team would do. It's just, yeah, this is a messed up version of that world.
I have to confess something.
Mm.
I have always liked the original Death of Tasha Yar. It was one of the first episodes of Star Trek TNG I remember watching as a kid. Because I always remember like the funeral at the end for Tasha.
Mm.
And I get why people wouldn't like it, because it's very much, it's a red shirt death.
Yeah.
And I personally, I think that's why I like it, because it is that it's not a main character death. It is basically, this one character gets ganked like a red shirt.
Yeah, it feels like sometimes when you in Doctor Who, where you get moments where someone dies or is kind of written out pretty abruptly, and you go, "Oh, okay, right. I guess we're moving on from there." It can be interesting, but yeah, I definitely get how Denise Crosby felt kind of fucked over by it, and you know, with this episode to the point where the script was posted to her directly to go, we want you back. Like, we understand that you wouldn't have wanted to have done this, but here's a way to go out like a champ.
Yeah.
You know, and she does.
Yeah.
You know, we may not see the death, but we don't need to see the death. We know the honourable sacrifice of the Enterprise.
This isn't how she dies, because like I think it's downhill for Tasha from here on, because we have her evil half Romulan daughter.
Oh yeah,
dicking about in. So yeah, I don't know. It's not even that. The rocks.
Yeah, the rocks.
The rocks.
Love the rocks. Love that Lower Decks explained the rocks in a way which both, you know, like laughs at them, but canonizes them as a legitimate thing that has a purpose. And that's one of those things I love about Lower Decks, that it likes the show enough to make fun of it, but to still keep it consistent and go, yeah, ceiling rocks.
Ceiling rocks.
Sure.
We have just bits of rock up there.
Yeah, they're needed.
Yeah.
Sorry, but you know,
it's a load bearing rock.
Yeah. Now you've written in our kind of what it's about on our spreadsheet here. You've written it as Tasha Yar fixfic. Could you elaborate for the listeners at home? What exactly is a fixfic?
A fixfic is a type of fan fiction where the writer feels that something something bad happened to a character they like, so they write a fanfic which kind of fixes, that problem in the property they're ficking about.
Yeah. I don't dabble much with the world of fanfic. I know a lot of fellow writers who do a lot of that kind of thing, and so many times when I hear about people's fics, it feels like that's okay for you. Like, if that's your way of, one, making a tappy sound, two, you see a thing and this is how you do it differently, or anything like that. It's an interesting experiment, but sometimes you listen to it and go, oh, this is a problem that mainly you have,
I mean,
with X specific bit of, like, Sherlock or whatever.
Charlie, you're an X-Men fan.
Yeah.
How many weird continuity stuff has been written in X-Men, just so we could get Doug Ramsey back, and not even just get Doug Ramsey back, but have him be like awesome and badass. So now he can read body language and can take on Wolverine in a fight.
Look, in the coming months of my X-Men marathon, Nate Grey, the X-Man, is going to come back. That is something a fan would really have to work at, to go, oh yeah, this character no one liked, who eradicated himself from reality, I'm going to bring him back.
I mean, how much of Nick Spencer's Amazing Spider-Man run is him going, I like this stuff from the 80s, I'm going to fix it.
Yeah, we didn't need to be reminded of sins past. We just didn't. Like, Nick Spencer's stuff started promisingly, but when it starts becoming, I need to explain and justify everything, no, you don't need to. But yeah, in this case,
and then we are forgetting the greatest fic of all, Shatner's Kirk novels.
Oh god,
where Shatner comes back from the dead, can beat anyone in a fight, and I think sleeps with several alternate versions of people.
Of course he does. Yeah. And of course our previous episode with Unification, which, got our boys Kirk and Spock to be together one last time while Spock dies.
If this had been a proper hardcore fic, they'd have banged.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there'd have been like one last tender kiss before they both died in a kind of The Notebook style way. Spoilers for The Notebook, it's not that good. But yeah, so with this, I get the intent, and I like the story as a whole with this. And having someone that is dead, that's gone.
It's a nice visual shorthand to go, ooh, something is wrong.
Yes. Yeah, well, it's like House of M. You got Hawkeye suddenly back, and Hawkeye's dead, and Hawkeye realizing, I died, and this reality needs to go, and maybe I should die for that, It's a fun moment. Here with her going, I really like this guy, with Castillo, and I'll go back in time. Like, fuck it. If it's some more time to die honourably here, or I am retconned back into having died at the hands of Armus?
Yeah.
Argus?
Armus.
Yeah, Armus. Then, fuck it. Why the hell not? We also got to see some of those lovely classic uniforms as well. That was good.
I did like Patrick Stewart's performance here.
Yes.
There is very much, this is Patrick Stewart kind of playing JL, as we'll see in Picard, where he's a lot more military hard man than, than Posh Explorer.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. So, do we have anything more on this? Let's see. What have I got? Anything on my notes?
I think they wanted, from my research, they wanted some more like bloody deaths.
Yes. Well, they got them.
They got them. They wanted more. Like, they wanted Wesley to be decapitated.
Oh my god. That'd be amazing. Like, yeah, understandably not really gonna fly, but yeah, that would be funny. Fuck, there was a ton of notes on Memory Alpha about all the different drafts, all the different things that they did with this to get it done. Why there's a million credits, which I am not going to abbreviate here. If you want to know all of the different telephone calls that were made to get this done, go to Memory Alpha. But yeah, it took a lot of work to get this, and it feels very much worth it. This was a really fun time.
Right, so where does this go on the big list?
Yeah, now this is one which feels like it's definitely a high scorer here. Just having a look at TNG episodes, we've got things like Pegasus, again with John Locke. Sorry, John Locke, not John Locke. We've talked about fandoms enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not going to go into Super Who Lock. We're not that kind of podcast.
No.
Okay. So, do you think this is a top 20?
It might be. I'm just looking at the drumhead and going like, oh, that was really good. Is this better than the drumhead? Like, here's a difficult choice.
I am going to say yes. Because I feel like for all that is good about the drumhead wraps up a bit too quickly. Picard makes a speech and everyone goes, ooh, I think we did a McCarthyism.
They all clap.
They all clap and stand up and they say, I didn't like The Last Jedi either.
How dare they? Okay. In spot number 18, we've got our man Bashier with some fun spy action from Bashier, and everyone gets to play a James Bond in Deep Space Nine.
Ooh, this is a tough one because I do like these are both good in their own different ways.
Yeah, they're both nice alternate looks at our core casts.
As a unit of Trek,
I
feel like yesterday's Enterprise is above our man Bashier. Because, the holodeck episodes always feel like a nice chance for the cast to kind of... It's Christmas holidays. They just, dress up in the costumes, and, they can just kind of camp it up for a bit. And everyone is camping it up gloriously in our man Bashier. But I feel this as a representative of what Star Trek is about, of the core themes and values. Even this much more hard-nosed, more military-minded Jean-Luc Picard, he still carries that quintessential value of if we can change the past to make this a better present, isn't that worth it?
Yeah.
Even though Starfleet isn't the Starfleet we know, even if these characters aren't the characters we know and love, they still stick to the ethos of, despite everything, in the face of our surrender and destruction, we're going to risk it all to do a Starfleet.
Yeah, and goddamn, that is a very Starfleet thing to do. Okay, so above that we got Death Wish, with Q wanting to die and Q wanting to stop Q.
Ooh, what do you think?
It's difficult with that. Death Wish is good. I don't know. I think maybe above Death Wish, but below Necessary Evil with the noir era kind of DS9, because that is.
I'm looking at number 15, which is where no man has gone before, where Kirk tries to kill God with a rock. And we kill a lot of people with rocks in this episode.
We do indeed. God, killing God with a rock feels like it should be a statement on Gene Roddenberry writing.
All right, yeah. I am good with that. I enjoy Necessary Evil a lot more than yesterday's Enterprise.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, in a way, we get the similar, strangely comparable kind of dark versions of some of the DS9 cast, only it's real. This is just how it was back in the day. Oh,
Right.
yeah, that was a fun one. I rarely, because we do this fortnightly, I rarely look at an episode and go, I kind of want to go and watch that right now.
Yeah.
But I kind of want to go and watch Necessary Evil. It's good.
Yeah.
We like it.
Odo does a Chinatown.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that was one last thing I noticed. There was a cast member called Aratia, who was Ensign Alphonse Pacelli, who appears in 20 episodes of Star Trek TNG. Doesn't seem to have a first name anywhere. He was only credited on call sheets on this and an episode of Cheers. No, it feels like a mystery. It feels like someone should investigate this.
I don't know, because this is basically like, this is your standard bread and butter for most kind of like jobbing background actors.
I guess, but 20 episodes just for that. It's like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe is this some secret time traveler that went to the past and, just hid in plain sight as an extra? Okay, so finally, we have our last episode of the evening, which is Star Trek Discovery, Season 2, Episode 5, titled Saints of Imperfection. This aired on Valentine's Day 2019, written by Kirsten Beyer and directed by David Barrett. The UK and the US number one hit was The Same Thing, Ariana Grande with 7 Rings. Did I actually say her surname correctly this time?
How did you say it?
Grande.
It's Grande.
Good.
It's Grande like the Starbucks side.
Yeah, I keep forgetting between episodes where she pops up here. And and Quentin's reviews, which the main place I've seen Ariana Grande mainly just calls her Cat. So, yeah, this 7 Rings is my favourite Things riff, which so many musicians have done, but it's fine. It's not great. Like, I've been getting into listening to Chapel Roan as far as, like, pop goes, and, yeah, this is nothing on that. Right. Meanwhile, we have some slightly shady things to do, so I hope you're dressed up in your kind of dark version of a Starfleet uniform for this one, and ready to stand about shadily like some kind of ne'er-do-well, like one of the bad kids, while you recap Saints of Imperfection, starting now.
Previously on Star Trek Discovery, Clem Fandango was a Klingon who was surgically altered to look like a human, and then went back to Klingon homeworld, then got recruited into Section 31 by an alternate evil fascist version of Philippa Giorgio.
Also slightly cannibal.
Tilly got possessed by fungus in the mycelial network. Jet Reno attacked it with a blowtorch, and it turned into a cocoon. And now the continuation. Michael Burnham is running, and it's only here that I notice how stupid the shoes look on the costume of the Star Trek Discovery era jumpsuit costumes. They look like the shoes that the robots from Death wear in the Doctor Who episode, The Robots of Death. Michael Burnham is very sad about Tilly apparently dying. Jet Reno's booked it for this episode. They're out. Stamets is going to try and find out what happened to Tilly. Meanwhile, Discovery is chasing the shuttle, which has Spock on it. Except it's not Spock, it's Philippa Giorgio. Shock! What a twist! Turns out that Philippa Giorgio is pretending to be the dead Philippa Giorgio from this reality, and is in Section 31, which everyone knows about for some reason. Turns out that Pike and Giorgio went to school together. They talk on hologram with Leland, another friend of Pike's, who is in charge of Section 31, and they're also hunting for Spock. But, don't get in our way and don't get in yours. We're going to have Giorgio go back to our ship, but don't worry, we're sending a Section 31 liaison. Can you hear me, Clem Fandango? Yes, I can hear you, Captain Christopher Pike. This is really awkward because Michael Burnham and Ash and Clem Fandango did the nasty in the previous season. Oh, and Clem Fandango also killed Stamets' boyfriend, Dr. Culber. Stick a pin in that. Meanwhile, it turns out that Tilly is not dead, but is actually trapped in the mycelial network by a representation of a shipman, May. It turns out that May and mycelial network wants Tilly to destroy a monster that is haunting the network. Stamets has a plan. They're just gonna go half in, half out of the mycelial network with Discovery, and so they can just kind of step into the network, rescue Tilly, get out before the fungus mycelial things start eating the ship. They don't have a better plan, so they're just gonna half in, half out. God, that sounds rude when you say it like that. Stamets and Michael Burnham, I don't know why I keep referring to him in her full name, venture into the mycelial network, and they find Tilly and May, and it turns out the monster is actually a representation of Dr. Culber, who is dead. What a twist! It turns out that due to mass and energy, part of Culber was reconstructed in the mycelial network thanks to the fact that Stamets keeps injecting himself with weird fungus shit. Everyone kind of comes together and works together. May wants to kill Culber, but Michael Burnham and the others want to save her. They find a plan because he can't come through with them. But if they recreate him using the fungus cocoon, they might be able to transfer him from one reality to the other. Section 31 comes with some tractor beams to stop the Discovery from sinking into the mycelial network fully. The day is saved, and Culber is able to be resurrected from being dead, and the head of Starfleet tells Leyland, Giorgio, and Pike that they have to work together to find Spock.
Wow.
Credits.
That is with 29 seconds to go.
I think I'm actually trying to beat my record on recapping Discovery episodes as quick as I can. Because I still think that our fastest recap, which I'm quite proud of.
Let's see, you did dead stop from Enterprise with 1 minute and 2 seconds to go. Oh yeah, Captain Killy, 1 minute and 13 seconds.
Yep.
Yeah.
For a Section 31 episode of Casual Trek, this is not very Section 31 heavy. I have to be honest, halfway through the episode, I had to go and check the notes to make sure I hadn't done a rejoined and was watching the wrong episode again.
So, I started watching Point of Light, because it was the first listed Section 31 episode of Discovery, and I got most of the way through before anything vaguely Section 31 appeared. It was very Game of Thrones, but Klingons. And that's when I was like, shit, okay, something's gone wrong here. And with Saints of Imperfection, you've just heard the recap. In the main story, not a vast amount of Section 31 happens, but there's a lot of Section 31 presence here. Mostly of them standing around being catty bitches.
Yeah.
And kind of, like, when I, with my notes, I just had, like, oh yeah, she's with the bad cool kids now. And you can tell with the outfit and the haircut and the way they're all looking.
I'll be honest, how Section 31 was interacting, this is what happened when you get shift supervisors from different Starbucks having to work at the same store.
Oh no.
There just gets to be a lot of catchiness for some reason.
Yeah, that kind of sense of, oh yeah, we're more superior here.
Yeah.
Compared to you lot. You know, like the Discovery itself is full of experimental tech and things like that, which explains a lot of how it does things that older ships couldn't from this sort of era. Section 31, of course, is even more advanced with its hologram asteroid looking kind of cloaked ship disguise, and it's comm badges, which is the first time chronologically that comm badges have appeared in Star Trek's timeline. And yeah, somehow just they have it and no one else. Yeah, God, there was a moment, I forget if it was in this or in Point of Light, where someone goes, "Oh, like, Captain Pike, you're using a view screen. This is very retro." And it's like, oh, does this mean that everyone in like TOS and TNG and DS9 and Voyager are all retro? Or does something canonically happen where they don't always beam out a hologram version of people? But
Perhaps holograms wanted independence.
yeah, maybe. Yeah.
God.
Like, Philippa Georgiou is a character I have difficult feelings about, because Michelle Yeoh is always brilliant, and the longer that Georgiou appears in Discovery, the more she becomes Spike from Buffy.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm here to be catty and kind of bad, but I'm not really going to be bad.
Yeah, the more Philippa Georgiou, the Mirror of Universe version, remains on the show, the more I found myself losing patience with her, because it's like it's like with a gaming group where you have a bunch of characters who all seem to have like a very kind of similar, there's a gelling, and then you get like the new guy in the group who is a friend of one of the members, and they're gonna play Driz Duarden, but not like a decent version of Driz Duarden, which would be Elrica Melnibone. Oh no, I said it. Hot take.
Hey.
Yay. And is just going around killing it. He's the guy who's just like killing everyone. When the rest of the group, who have a set dynamic, are trying to actually kind of roleplay. And she just kind of gets tedious.
Yeah, I can see why they got rid of her from the series at the point they did, of like being in the future. You kind of got enough of a dark universe, not the dark universe, RIP, May 2018 to May 2018, but a grimdark universe.
On this quick subject of the dark universe, have you heard the podcast Are You Afraid of the Dark Universe?
No, I keep meaning to check it out.
Okay, because it's right up your alley. See, the thing about Philippa Georgiou is, okay, Charlie.
Mm-hmm.
I need to ask you, can I talk about Blake 7?
Oh God, we've not done this for ages. Do I have my sand timer? No, I don't. I can't limit this to just a single minute. Fine, but be quick.
Okay. In the TV show Blake 7, you have your main character, Rog Blake, played by Garth Thomas, who is your very kind of morally upstanding, rebel, Robin Hood in space kind of guy. And then you have Kerr Avon, who is played by Paul Darrow, and Avon is cynical, logical. He kind of hates all of Blake's kind of moralizing grandstanding, and always tries to poke holes and trying to show himself as being better than Blake. The thing is, Avon is a much more interesting character, because while he is very kind of cynical and ruthless and logical, he's always also in comparison with someone who is a bit more moral and heroic than himself. But it's a lot more interesting because he's never, for all that Avon is an anti-heroic character, it's never positioned to be too much.
Yeah.
It never feels like he doesn't fit in, because he's not essentially a kill-crazed psychopath who they would have ditched ages ago.
I mean, that is the slight problem with trying to redeem, or not even necessarily redeem, but use Georgiou, of going like, we went comically villainous.
Yeah.
With her. How do you walk that back?
How do you walk that back? At the same time, there is that with Blake and Avon, there is that strange kind of that Avon is very much kind of, as much as Blake irritates him, he still for the most part follows his lead. And then when the second half of Blake 7, when Avon becomes the main character, and you have basically the bastard in charge, you have an anti-hero who is still fundamentally trying to be as heroic as he can, and you see how that weighs on the character, because you have the guy who is very content to stand to the sidelines and going, yeah, I would be much better as the leader, then showing him have to be the leader. And it's incredible. It's, like one of the high points of the show, of showing how this guy, who is a complete cynical bastard, has to kind of become like this team leader, and kind of be like almost the moral center, but still be a dick.
Yeah, it's difficult, as someone who's a fan of Professor Xavier. It's difficult having your morally dubious people, but also going, but actually, not necessarily even they've got a point, but yeah, it's tricky. So, what about our other Section 31 stars here? We have Clem Fandango himself, Ash Tyler, who, fresh from his Game of Thronesing and having to abandon the Klingon way of life in order to save his kid, and joining up with Section 31. I admit I had little time for Ash Tyler before he was a Klingon.
I don't know. Ash Tyler just seems like one of those ideas that Discovery had, which could have been interesting, but just never fleshes out because of all the behind the scenes stuff that happened.
Yeah, and like whatever things he had going on, it seemed like he was only interesting in relation to Michael Burnham. And then, of course, you had the betrayal and all that. And the moment it's like, oh, he's secretly evil. Also, he's killed Hugh Culber. It's like, oh, well, then I didn't care for him before. Now I actively don't like him.
Yeah.
In fact, now that is the exact point that my partner gave up on Star Trek Discovery, was after Culber died, and hearing, oh no, he comes back in a few episodes. She was like, it's too late now.
Yeah, like I don't know if it was intentional, but I remember that when they killed off Culber, there was the complaints of fridging, or bury your gaze, because he's one of the two centrally queer characters in the first half of Discovery, but then he comes back through main character magic.
Yeah. Speaking of which, when he came back in this, seeing all of the weird kind of goopy stuff moving upwards, it just gave me Death Stranding flashbacks. Yeah. Another note I had here, aside from just fucking mushrooms, man, was Hugh Culber was on the beach. Yes.
Do you think he did a point where he ran and jumped like Mario?
I hope so. God, I hope he did that.
God, I love that. Like, God, one day, hopefully this year, we will get to do our Death Stranding episode, because, oh dear God, I love Death Stranding. It is the dumbest fucking game.
It really is.
There is just this wonderfully earnest. Death Stranding has the same earnest charm that Discovery's high moments get for me. When I don't know, like, I always feel bad when we have to do either Discovery or Picard, because they're clearly the two shows we have the least patience with.
Yeah.
And
in Discovery, there's a lot of potential.
Yeah.
I mean, we also get to see our series and season antagonist in this episode as well, with Leland. I think this is his first appearance.
As a Twin Peaks fan, never trust a character called Leyland or
Leland. No, never.
No, yeah.
No. He has the look of someone that had caused some trouble in a like countryside pub. That kind of thing. Like, his Audi Quattro would be parked in a few people's spaces, and yet he would take offense at like someone having to use an accessible way into the pub or something.
Oh no, he's definitely someone who would have been in a Phil Mitchell mob subplot of EastEnders.
Yeah, the guy that you get to be harder than Phil Mitchell.
Yeah. What,
and
Ross Kemp? Who played Grant?
Ross was Grant. Yeah. Not quite Grant. No. The guy that would also provide a threat for Grant to have to deal with. The guy, no, you don't mess with my bruv.
Oh, EastEnders.
Yeah, he may look like a strawberry sometimes with how red his face goes, but that doesn't mean you threaten him or the Vic. Anyway, yeah, I'll try to stop having EastEnders flashbacks now. But yeah, Leland is suitably sinister. I didn't realize we'd get a villain for a season in a Star Trek, but yeah, here he is.
Star Trek doing a big bad is always weird.
It is. And while I was ultimately kind of satisfied with how the show being every time all about Michael, the season arc here explains why specifically it is all about Michael, rather than going because main character.
Yeah.
And yeah, like in this show, this is what episode 5. It gets more and more about Section 31, and similar to Picard season 1, kind of about plots which feel way too similar to Mass Effect.
Yeah.
The
techno singularity threatens a lot in modern Trek.
Yeah, it's weird that. So yeah, like this, while the recap wasn't very Section 31-y, they were there also in the background.
They helped, but just by being kind of catty. Oh, you Starfleet, you're so cute.
Look at our more advanced technology that somehow we're not giving to Starfleet.
We look good in black. Clearly, we're tough and hardcore. It's like no, you're the drama kids with delusions of grandeur.
Yeah. Okay, so, yeah, where are we putting this? What are we doing with it?
Oh, God.
Is it better than... Okay, here's one. Just start us off. Is it better than Justice, where Wesley ruins their trip to Planet Fuck?
Oh.
That's in spot number 123.
You know what? Yes.
Okay.
Okay, for all we kind of either rag or dismiss this episode, I do have to give points to the actor playing Stamets when he has his scenes with Hugh. There are some really nice emotional moments. And
Anthony Rapp's always good.
Yeah. I love Anthony Rapp when he's being bitchy Stamets. I love him when he's being a nice Stamets, because it always feels so against who he is as a character. I'm glad that we do get to see his different facets. I feel upset that the recap promises Jet Reno with a blowtorch, and then took away Jet Reno with a blowtorch immediately.
Just, at some point when the Starfleet Academy show comes out, Jet Reno will be in it, apparently.
Yeah.
So, we'll console ourselves for that. So, yes.
Tilly was wonderfully... Tilly being earnestly charming is also one of the... anytime... I feel like when Discovery ditches trying to be really forcing the grimdark, and then and embraces Star Trek's nerdy hope punk core, even though God, I despise the term hope punk.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that's when the show really kind of sings.
Yeah.
And them, I never thought I'd have emotional feelings about a character trying to make a pinky swear in a Star Trek, but here we go.
I mean, we've mentioned Doctor Who a few times. That feels Doctor Who as hell.
I don't know. I don't feel I can't think of any Doctor who would try and have a pinky swear with someone.
I mean, he might not pinky swear, but a companion would.
I don't know. I kind of want to see Peter Capaldi have to pinky swear.
Yeah, he wouldn't like it, but he'd do it.
And Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor, I feel, would definitely go all out pinky swear and mean it.
100%. Possibly, create some convoluted handshake.
I would like to see William, the first Doctor, be forced to do a pinky promise.
It'd probably hit someone.
Probably.
Like, that's the joy of William Hartnell's
Oh, yeah.
Doctor. But it's like, yeah, he's just going to punch someone. It's fine.
Well, that everyone kind of forgets that, like, this was the show. Like, all the other doctors worried about typecasting from being a Doctor Who. William Hartnell was basically known as, like, being the heavy in British gangster films. So he took the role as Doctor Who to get away from the typecasting of being the heavy in Brighton Rock.
Let's see. So above that, we've got a bunch of Enterprise episodes. We have Impulse with the Emotion Zombies in 122. And we've got 2 of the Augment trilogy in 120 and 121. And that's with the Orion Slavers capturing T'Pol and a bunch of other no-name guys. And Cold Station 12 with the Disease Station, which felt nicely classic Trek to go, here's a space station, we just put all the diseases on it.
What could possibly go wrong?
Love it. Love that level of thinking. For Federations of the Utopia, it is not perfect.
It's stupid. At 119, we have the opening episode of Strange New Worlds, second season with the broken circle, where we find that Spock's solution to problems is very much a very kind of William Hartnell Doctor Who solution, which is he's going to nick it.
Yeah, I mean, this is chronologically, this is his earliest time of stealing the Enterprise. This is not his only time of stealing the Enterprise.
Spock, for someone who everyone says is incredibly logical and rational, Spock's solution to problems being doing a theft is I think he might be a Vulcan kleptomaniac.
Yeah. God, so I think that had some fun actiony drama. I feel like what you were saying with the way you've got Stamets, Culber, Tilly, they are all like hitting their beats as far as why we like them as characters.
Yes.
Yeah. And I feel that kind of might have it just above Broken Circle for me.
Yeah, I mean, Broken Circle is a good action opener,
Yeah.
but it's not. I don't feel it really gets to the deep core of these characters. Although Spock getting drunk with Klingons is a lovely beat. But yeah,
yes.
I just wish that Discovery had more of these highs, because I'm like, that's my big problem. That's the big problem with Discovery. Discovery's big problem is like Voyager, is that it has so much really interesting potential early out, but then just never. By the time it starts capitalizing on it, it's too late.
Okay. Let's see. Above that, in 118, we've got Let Sleeping Borg Live from Prodigy. The Prodigy does a horror with some Borg. What fun!
What fun! Like that's a good one. I like how Zero tries to interact with the Borg by being of a Gestalt race himself, and then him kind of succumbing to it. But yeah, I feel like Prodigy does something new with the Borg while also keeping it kid friendly. And it does a nice twist by having a character who is of a different species and kind of race to your average humans, and then seeing how that character might find some peace in being assimilated to escape from his own personal pain.
Yeah,
we've always seen assimilation by the Borg as something that's been something invasive. There's never been a point in Star Trek where we see how assimilation to someone might be a way out.
Yeah, it might be kind of weirdly appealing.
Yeah, just kind of
which for Zero, it's almost like they're kind of going, well, it's comfortable. Like there will be, being amongst.
I can escape the guilt I have over my actions by just having my personality be utterly subsumed by the collective.
Yeah.
it's the kids. It's the quote unquote the Star Trek for kids, which finds an interesting angle with the Borg, which has been something Star Trek has struggled with ever since the Borg were introduced.
Yeah. Okay. So I think, given what we've been saying, it'll be under Let Sleeping Borg Lie.
Yeah.
So at spot number 119, which, it's not bad. It's
No.
not in the bad space with them, but it's, can do better.
There's no Amdram and there's no child killing.
Okay, and with that, we are prepared. We are ready for our next episode, for our Section 31 Spectacular. We will be joined by guest stars, by Sean, who legally doesn't pay for Twitter, and Celeste, who has recently been on here to talk about Romulans, and I assume is going nuts with the prospect of some kind of Gundam miniatures game.
Oh, more than likely. I actually haven't spoken to him about it yet, but we'll see.
Yeah, good luck with the wallet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so, we'll be boldly spying where no one's spied before, except for possibly Guardians of the Galaxy and Borderlands the movie, if the trailers are anything. And Blake 7, if the trailers are anything to believe. But in the meantime,
And Fast. And the Legion Lost era of Legion of Superheroes.
For first Legion Lost era, the new 52 one was atrocious.
Other sci-fi shows which have done morally dubious people in space, Killjoys, that one Canadian miniseries about the bounty hunters in space.
Yeah.
Oh god. Come on. What else? What else has been? What other space renegades? Starjammers.
Yeah. Starjammers. Love those guys.
Guys, again, we said Borderlands.
Oh yeah, I meant more that it's coded like Borderlands the movie in its marketing. Which or Concord.
You ruined it. You killed it.
Yeah.
Right, Charlie, where can they find you?
So they can find me they can find us on Blue Sky at casualtrek.bsky.social. And if you like what we do enough to fling us some money in order to talk about a specific episode or theme, then we have a Ko-fi page, which is kofi.com/casualtrek. My own work can be found generally with me blathering about X-Men or RPGs on skyshark.bsky.social. And I've been doing a few bits of blog posts on fakedtales.com. What about yourself?
You can find me on Blue Sky at milesreedlabarto.bsky.social. And you can find some of my stuff on my blog at mareedlabarto.wordpress.com. As of time of recording, I recently wrote a short bit about my feelings on stuff I enjoyed in 2024.
Yeah, it was nice to get a bit of a shout out on there, and I think this has been a mutual sanity keeping exercise.
Yeah.
For both of us, especially as someone that often describes themselves as the most organized, least organized person, having something like this to do, similar to my varied pop culture related missions, has definitely been good for my brain.
And that's it.
Yeah. And this message will now explode. So good luck, and I guess start running.
Go to a Section 31, and don't forget to always apply talc when putting on latex.
You have been listening to Casual Trek, a Nerd and Tie podcast, presented by Charlie Etheridge Nunn and Miles Reed Labarto. Music by Alfred Etheridge Nunn. Edited by the hosts and by Rihanna Reed Labarto. Star Trek is owned by Paramount. Not us. Not yet.